You are living in the most dangerous time in American history.
We won't take a single back step.
Former professional basketball player is now the Republican Party's choice.
Can you imagine Royce White, the U.S. Senate?
White won the endorsement on May 18th with 67% of the vote.
There's nothing that guarantees we win, but I guarantee you if we lose, we will die. Special guest, HEBROES edition.
HEBROES.
Of Please Call Me Crazy. In studio with us today, again, is the great Professor Penn. Long-awaited return of the HEBROES podcast. We haven't had one in a while.
Been busy,
but we're going to get one in today. A lot of things to talk about. So let's get started. Where should we start?
Where do you want to start?
Let me think. Well, let's talk about energy.
Okay, let's talk about energy.
Okay. Energy. Do you think there are sources of sustainable, renewable energy that are being kept from the American public, displayed in these, unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAP, UFO, whatever it is that we're seeing up in the skies there? Do you think that these are reverse engineered aircraft, or what's your thought on it? Let's go there.
We're going to play the what if game.
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up is, as United States Senator, why have none of these U.S. senators brought a bill forward or some type of started some type of investigative committee to look into this secret technology, if it is secret technology, if it's being run by some international private company or group, or if it's an arm of the domestic United States military. Doesn't have serious implications for the constituents and the voters to have those sources of renewable energy out there that are being kept secret?
There's a bomber, a U.S. military bomber that we're familiar with. It's called the B-2 bomber.
Mm-hmm.
Costs $1 billion, $1 billion, $200 million. Allegedly, I don't have the purchase order, per unit. It's a flying wing. They domicile these bombers here in the United States, and they just recently flew all the way from the United States to Yemen, where they delivered their ordnance and destroyed hardened underground munitions bunkers. We're bombing the Yemenis, we the people. Now, this is a flying wing. It's a flying wing. It's a very interesting looking aircraft. And what people don't know is it's Nazi technology. The flying wing was developed under the Third Reich, and the prototypes and the technology emanate from the Second World War. This was hidden from the American people for decades and decades and decades.
Right.
So one would ask ourselves, if we were prudent, why wouldn't our senators and our elected representatives want to know about where this technology came from, who developed it, why is it so expensive, what are we doing? And the reason why is they do know.
That's what I was getting at.
They do know, and they're not asking the question.
Because they know.
Well, and if somebody jumps up, and when you're a senator, it'll be an interesting conversation when they're going to take you downstairs in the special room, and they're going to say, Senator White, we're so happy to have you in Washington. You seem to be rather prolific in your communication with the constituents. Senator White, there's things you can say, and there's things you can't say for the good of the country. They might even tell you can't discuss it with your good friend, Professor Penn. And that's the world where those people are living. So do I think there's technology that we don't know anything about? Well, hey, did you see those robots pop up this week with Elon Musk? He's got the Tesla robot, or did I just make that up on my own?
I saw.
You saw that,
I don't know
right?
what's real or fake anymore, but
well, where Could somebody tell me about how deep down the rabbit hole we're going to go with these robots now? I mean, is that for real? See, you don't know.
I don't know.
We don't know,
Can't
do
say.
we? So now we're getting into the grounds and limits and nature of human knowledge
Yeah.
in an era of artificial intelligence. It's very spooky. But if you're asking me, do I think there's technologies, generally speaking, that we know nothing about, and they're going to come popping out? Surprisingly, yes, I do think so. I think the next time the Iranians decide, they're going to launch 500 or 1,000 missiles at one time, I think we could see some surprises. Lasers, things that, they've got lasers now deployed on the ships, allegedly.
Direct energy weapons.
Direct energy weapons, like Star Trek. How did we get from Gene Roddenberry in 1966 to direct energy weapons now here in 2024? So, yeah, the technology is running out of control. And, I this week I talked about on the Professor Penn podcast, just last night, Thursday night, the 17th. Not every scientific invention is good for humanity. We've been kind of gum-dipped with that. My generation, the boomers. Because, we got the benefit of the Second World War, the pride and winning the Second World War. And then Dr. Jonas Salk, developed the polio vaccine, which allegedly ended the polio scourge. And then we had, well-being checkups and vaccines and cars and televisions and all this stuff popped up out of nowhere. And then we had the Apollo moon mission, which some people question as to whether or not that was real or
You
memory.
think we landed on the moon?
Well, I was alive at the time. It sure felt like it. I mean, I was like 11, 12 years old. Man, we couldn't go to sleep. It was a big deal. So, I mean, it never occurred to me at the time that flag was sticking out there in the wind. I mean, it seemed very real.
That is odd.
It is very odd. It's very odd. I played on Tuesday night, the 15th, I played an outtake.
Turn this way. Don't turn this way.
I played an outtake of Werner von Braun, who was the Nazi SS officer who came to the United States under Operation Paperclip and was put in charge of NASA. He was the main cog in the machine. And there was a video footage of him showing rocket demonstrations to the Fuhrer, Adolf Hitler, and then the very same demonstration with John Kennedy, saying the same things, doing the same things. So, where this technology is coming from, and because you made the statement, the question, could there be some alien technology that's been repatriated, so to speak, into humanity and is now being exploited? Kind of like the Terminator, right? Right. How would I know? I just know stuff is getting pretty spooky with this technology.
Well, if they have the technology, then the most important implication is there's obviously some source of energy propelling it. There's some advanced technology that's giving them access to some energy supplies or mechanisms that are not readily available to the public.
Talking about those Tic Tac UFOs that zip around.
Yeah, I mean the Tic Tac for sure is one. But I mean there's a lot of them out there now. Just in general, that there's in these things. The only other explanation is that there's some advanced. Some real sophisticated. What do they call that? Image producing technology, where they're actually projecting these things into the sky as a psyop to make people think they're real when they're not. I don't particularly buy that version, but conceivably, now that we're seeing where you see those lights, the light shows, the LEDs that can actually project now images into the sky. It seems like, from what I see anyway, with where they do those light shows, that tech isn't sophisticated enough to give the depth and dimension that we see with these flying objects in some of these video recordings, in my opinion. But hey, if they have advanced technology on that front, then maybe they have advanced what is that called when they do that? I forget. It escapes me. But people know what I'm talking about, where they can project an image into the sky.
Holograms?
There you go, hologram technology. I'm sorry. Yeah, if they have advanced aerial technology, then they probably have advanced hologram technology as well. But if it's not a hologram and these are actual flying objects, then the energy source for 'em has to be extremely advanced, and there has to be an energy implication there. And so, do you think the energy industry is actually suppressing this technology for economic purposes, or do you think it's military purposes? Let's buy the theory that the energy sources to propel these type of uh, aircraft does exist. What's the reason to suppress it, or is it probably both? It's probably both. I mean, we don't need to really speculate on that. They exist, it's both. It's both economic, the energy industry, and the economic implications, and the military. It's because, and the reason I brought this question up is um, the uh, the podcast clip that I posted from Weinstein, where he talked about them not allowing Donald Trump to get elected president, was an interesting clip. But there's another clip in there that I'm going to post later on today or tomorrow, where he talks about the United States government and the intelligence community suppressing entire fields of mathematics, theoretical physics, and basically using the justification that it's a matter of national security to let these types of information be available to the public, because our enemies could potentially use them to in the arms race. Because I guess there's always an arms race going on. There's been an arms race since we first took off to try and, I don't know, land on the moon, and then
How about since
the nuclear.
catapults? How about since catapults?
Okay,
I mean, we've always been looking to get an edge
yeah,
on
okay,
killing the next guy,
right.
right?
But I mean scientific. Modern science is the split of the atom, the nuclear weapon.
And what happened since that in the development of nuclear weapons and the creation of the Manhattan Project and the motivation of our scientific industrial elites in this project of creating nuclear weapons after the war, our universities, I mean, this is really critical, this part. I mean, we
Mhm.
start out with energy, so there's speculation, right?
Yeah,
Okay, speculation. Let's just agree there's a lot of things going on that we're too far downstream to be troubled with in terms of the elite that Eisenhower warned us about. He said, we have to be aware of a military scientific establishment of technocrat elitists that would take control of the country. The military industrial complex being unprecedented, what was developed in World War II continues to this day. But the real part that bothers me, because my father spent his life at the university and I grew up in that world, those universities are funded and in service of the military.
right,
I mean, that's what it is. See, I have 5 kids, send them all to college. You're going to have to do that sometime, not in the too long distant future.
right,
Time moves quickly,
right,
right?
right.
And you know what I think about my kids, right? My kids, I got smart kids. I really think that and if you're listening and you're older and you have children, they're going to college, they're going to go to college. My kids, your kids, we're just a cover story. We're actually co-oping the military industrial complex. Well, it's a co-op. And you know it's a co-op because they're letting people off the hook and they're letting them go for free. It doesn't really matter. The government is funding the whole deal. The research it's hundreds of millions of dollars every year.
Billions.
Billions, hundreds of billions every
Yeah.
year. And these schools, we send our kids off, and your kid might be interested in gender studies. My kid might be interested in sociology. They don't care about these social sciences. That's just there for indoctrination purposes. All that is to make Marxists. That's all that's about. What they're really looking for is the 1 or 2% of kids that are extremely good at this math and science that you're talking about.
STEM.
The STEM people. They get sucked up into they get identified. They get stipends. They get encouraged to go to graduate school. They get advanced degrees, and boom, they're in service to the military industrial complex. So the entire university system is either there to indoctrinate people
or to build weapons of
or to
war.
build and that's what. And you know, our university system used to be
Not
that.
just war, but also enslavement.
If you go back to the Herman Kahn piece that we like to play over, and everybody can go look up Herman Kahn, the Dark Lord. That's Kahn.
We'll run the Herman Kahn clip at the end of the podcast.
Oh, that'll be great because that's the Hudson Institute.
Yeah.
I think it's about 19. Well, they were talking about the Black Panthers in that clip.
Being
actually
sand in the gears.
putting sand in the gears, right?
Yeah.
So Herman Kahn comes up with a whole technological future description of reality. And I realized watching this over and over and over again that they paid him, he was working for the CIA, they paid him to envision a security state, and then the government funded the technological research that brought us this surveillance device that we use so nicely for convenience. And everything I say, do, think, and do, they know everything about me. It's awful.
Yeah.
It is really awful.
Well, the first thing they're doing, and this is kind of like you said, that social sciences department end of the propaganda and narrative I was thinking about earlier today. It's just, it never ceases to amaze me how the liberals have convinced people that white supremacy is the great scourge of modern society. I don't even understand. I mean, honestly, it's the biggest indictment of the American public.
That they bought it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this, and I'm not saying there's not racism. I mean, you and I both know that there's.
We were just talking about that.
You and I both
ago.
know that there's racism, but
Right.
the reality is, it pales in comparison to what they've used it to steal and rip off from the American people. It's just, you know, the Eurocentric, neo-colonial worldview or history or structure is the great plague of humanity. But the entire military-industrial complex and NATO and all of its resources and all of our tax dollars and all of our sons and daughters and their education is all geared and aimed towards defending the very Europe they say is the great evil. I mean, it's profound that the level of a contradiction there is earth-shattering. Should be.
I thought you said it very well when we were out in front of the Federal Reserve talking about the Ukraine.
Yeah.
You know, we're supposed to memory hole the Nazi past of the Ukraine and support them because, after all, they're a democracy.
Nazi democracy.
But our Nazi democracy. There's a T-shirt.
Yeah. There's a brain.
That's a brain bender, right?
It's a brain bender.
But you know, our own founding fathers, because they owned slaves.
Yeah.
We have to invalidate the founding of the country
but not change the ethic, the core ethic.
Right.
Not change the business model. Not change that's what I'm saying is, you know, Europe. It all is in defense of Europe. There's no doubt about it. NATO, the Trilateral Commission, the United Nations, our entire military-industrial complex here in this country, and the shadow one that exists behind the scenes all around the world, is all in defense of the territorial integrity of Europe. And hey, I don't agree with it. I think we should be America first, but I'm not saying I don't understand that the forces that be, the powers that be, look to protect the territorial integrity of Europe. Fine, but can we at least not go around saying all white men are bad then? Because I can't get on board. I mean, I just can't get on board with the narrative if we're starting from this type of contradiction. And I think there's a whole layer of people in society that, like for example, with the American military, we don't have a problem with America having a strong military. You know, we're not anti-American being strong or having being able to defend itself, or even having good strategic relationships with certain allies around the world. That's not an issue. The issue is the narrative. The narrative is just a flat-out lie on face value. And I don't think there's a bill that Amy Klobuchar hasn't there's not a war bill or a defense bill or an armament bill that Amy Klobuchar hasn't voted yes to. And it's the entire cohort of them. So how do they do this? I mean, how do your average American citizens who identify as Democrats or liberal or believe that racism is such a big issue, how do they justify defending to the death
The colonialists.
the colonialists? I don't even, and they actually talk about colonialism. This is what makes me start to get contemptuous of people and think it's not about people not knowing the information. But then I have to remind myself that when I'm actually out there on the campaign trail and meeting people in person and you bring up certain topics, they really don't know. And you can tell they don't know. And that's even in our own movement, let alone the people who have been isolated and indoctrinated in Marxist and communist public education. So I know there are people who don't actually know, but there are some people who know. And it starts to make me believe that they're just doing it on. You know who knows? The media. The media knows. Maybe not all of them, but the ones who approve, the editors, the ones, the producers, the ones who approve what is said and what isn't said, they know. Like the 22-year-old punk journalist who called and interviewed me from USA Today when I said the bad guys won World War II. He actually didn't know. He didn't even know what the post-World War II Democratic Liberal Order was or the Atlantic Charter. I mean, he just said it right there in the interview on the recording. I posted it. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to it, but he just came right out and said, I'm 22 years old. I don't even know what you're talking about.
You posted up my podcast, Who Won World War II, because I did that in support of you and what I thought was some scurrilous attacks upon you.
Mm-hmm.
And I read through the comments, and people really don't know. They're what we would call gum-dipped. They don't know any other history than the narrative that's been given to them. There's a guy named Dennis Prager, not that I want to promote Dennis Prager, but he does say only an educated person could be that stupid, because they don't look at the totality of the histories that are around the event.
Mm-hmm.
They don't look at any other street corners. They just look at it from the perspective of what they were taught, of course, by the victors, and they ignore all the other histories that they could gain from. Like you're talking about Europe. Okay, we're back to Europe. So one reason why they might see Europe as worth defending, one of the reasons they might see it as being worth defending, is the European countries have done such a great job at becoming diverse. They're kind of ahead of us on this. The migrant invasion of Europe is full-blown and well-developed, and I can just say from having been in Paris, there's parts of Paris you just can't go into. I mean, there's no police there. It's a different country within France. The French police would have a very hard time entering those communities. And I think maybe there's some simpatico or some sympathy or some, well, look what a great job these colonial empires have done of bringing in equity to their populations, possibly. And, of course, the Europeans are way ahead of us on the climate change. What do you mean that's crazy?
That's crazy.
Why?
That's ridiculous.
Why?
Because,
you're saying, why
because
do
Europe is still siphoning off natural resources from the countries of Africa. That's what Maloney, what's her name? Who's it?
Oh, you're Georgia Maloney.
Georgia Maloney. That's what she said about Burkina Faso. She said the French are still, putting the people of Burkina Faso on a French or Euro currency system, and they're stealing their natural resources. They're stealing their gold and their rare earth metals and their gems and treasures. They're stealing them for pennies on the dollar. And then they're telling these people that their future is in southern Italy?
Hey, we talked about why people might support it. Not what that's, I mean, I'm giving
You're saying this is the narrative is being
I'm
fleeced.
saying yes, there's a cover story going on
Gotcha,
here.
yeah, that's true.
Right? And they're way ahead of the United States on climate issues, right?
Are they?
Oh, yeah.
How?
How?
At least you mean the narrative.
The narrative in the Nord Stream pipeline's blown up.
There is no climate initiative. I want to make this very clear.
In Europe?
There is, yes. I want to make this very clear for people, because this is a big issue in Minnesota too. For some reason, maybe not in the 2022, I think in the 2022 midterms, this was a big issue. Climate was right up there at the top for the people of Minneapolis, the city of Minneapolis, which is crazy liberal, progressive. I mean, you go around Lake Calhoun, you see Harris Waltz signs all over the place, which tells you that these, elitist uber wealthy. I mean, people may not even understand the reference, but if you're from Minnesota or if you've ever been to Minnesota, or you have family in Minnesota, there isn't a more absurdly, obnoxiously overvalued markup on real estate and homes than the Lake of the Isles, Lake Calhoun area. And why do I say that? Because yeah, I mean, there's some pretty homes, don't get me wrong, and it is lakefront property technically, kind of, but you're a stone's throw from people getting shot and robbed and smoking crack and homeless. Now more than ever, especially after 2020, and it always has been that way, that Lake Calhoun and Lake of the Isles and Lake Harriet are just a couple blocks from the action. I mean, South Minneapolis and Lake Street has been a hotbed for crime all the way back to the 80s. To the way back, right. So, I mean, it's always been that neighborhood, right? Is it the property value and crime? And these things beg questions when you get to this part of the Minnesota. Same thing with Edina. Edina's not far from the neighborhoods where, shit is happening. It's dangerous, which is part of the reason why the Edina community has seen such an uptick in home invasions and car, jackings and so on and so forth. But my point is, these people, right there in this uber wealthy, obnoxious, marked up real estate, have no sense of reality. I mean, the money has completely stripped them of reality. They have a completely philosophized type of hyperbolic, vacuumous sort of worldview where the climate initiative is number one. I mean, fine. If you think that the climate has issues, if you think that the climate is in crisis, even if you say global warming is going to melt the polar ice caps and send us into patterns of unstable and violent hurricanes and other unforeseeable weather events, okay. But the number one issue for you is the climate?
But those very same people, support a $200 billion expenditure in the Ukraine for weapons. Probably if you had all the countries together, it's probably $500, $600, $700 billion. When those weapons blow up, is that good for the environment?
Well,
I mean, if you really cared about the
Yeah.
environment, could you really be for war in the Ukraine?
Well, yeah, I guess they have clean green bombs.
Maybe we could go back to swords. Let's go back to swords.
Let's go back to muskets.
Well, no, let's go all the way back to swords.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's definitely a cleaner. That's better for the environment.
Well, if we're going to do all these other rules, like I can't eat meat, right?
Right.
And I can't have a car.
Yes.
Right? And I'm willing to accept that.
Yes.
How about the Warriors accept we're going back to swords?
I love it.
Isn't that a great idea?
I think it would mediate shit perfectly.
And it would cut down on the killing tremendously.
Oh, for
if
sure.
If we really cared
if we
about
fought World War II with swords?
Oh, there wouldn't have been 88 million
Yeah,
killed.
the United Nations. This is a great idea. I love this track.
You
I'm
like
going to bring that bill
You like
on
that?
the Senate floor.
We're going back to
Disarmament. The
Right.
entire world.
Because we want to save the planet. We have to band together in global governance to save Earth
Don't
from
scream,
humans.
you're going to blow out the microphone.
I'm sorry, but it's hilarious.
It is great.
Yeah.
I think it's great. It really will show you where everybody is, right?
The contradictions.
It'll show you right where everybody is. And it's actually possible. That's what's
I was watching.
ironically, it's actually possible.
Well, if you're willing to take someone's food.
The United Nations should bring a motion to the floor of the General Assembly
Back to swords.
to disarm all the world's militaries or de-arm, downgrade the accepted form of military combat to swords. Why wouldn't that be? We have a Security Council. The Security Council determines the United Nations and all of the world's people are in a sort of global democratic majority about what's acceptable in war and what's not. Why don't we go back to swords to cut the killing? Because they like mass killing. Because if there's going to be a war, we want people to die because it's a twofer, right?
Well, that would
we got a war. We get to run a scam with the money, but we also get to kill a lot of people at the same time. And everybody kind of accepts it. Like in Ukraine, 1 million Ukrainians die. A million Iraqis die. Happens. It's war. Bad things happen in war sometimes.
Good for business.
Great for business.
Right.
Yeah. But my point is that there is no climate initiative. I'm not even talking about that part. There is no climate initiative as long as China exists. period.
And do you know that China dominates the worldwide trade for green technologies? Dominant.
Of course.
Dominant.
Well, they're dominant in every industry.
Yes, they are dominant in every industry. That's
But
true.
my point is, as long as China is allowed to operate the way that they're allowed to, and this is what I'm saying about that Calhoun, upper middle class, uber wealthy, because, not everybody that lives in that area is wealthy. They got apartments there.
But if you're on the lake, you're wealthy.
Yeah, but they got apartments there, and they, a lot of those houses in those back neighborhoods, they've now turned into quads, quadruplexes, and there's triplexes and duplexes, old houses that used to be one house turned into six apartment units. So there's some people back there that are, middle class, upper middle class, right? But they all kind of have the same political philosophy, which is weird.
And why would that be?
Well, my point is, in their political philosophy, do they not these people think they're really smart. I mean, they believe themselves to be super educated.
They are educated.
They believe themselves to actually have the high ground on some of these issues when none of it actually adds up. Like, if it's a one world, one planet climate change narrative and agenda initiative, then what China does with their pollution on their side of the planet affects the entire planet. That's like, it's so basic. It's so, geopolitics for dummies. I have trouble. It's like the only thing I can think of when I start to go through it is these people are getting high as fuck. These people are getting high, super high. I mean, these people are on drugs for real. I don't know what kind of drug specifically. I'm not.
I have a name for the drug. Can I give you what I think the drug is?
Yeah.
Arrogance.
No. I'm saying.
I know you're saying.
These people. No, I'm being serious.
I
These
know
people are getting fucking high.
Great.
Like, they're doing coke, or they're doing some type of LSD, or they're doing some type of fucking, I don't know what it is, but these people must be on hard narcotics or prescription pills, because there's no way. I mean, the logic is just so broken. It's so broken. Even the basics you can't even discuss. It's a one world climate change narrative. One world, one planet climate change agenda initiative. If China's allowed to have unrestricted amounts of pollution, which they do, and nobody can oversee it, and everybody understands that. Anybody who tells the world or the public anything different is a bold-faced liar. There can be no oversight of the CCP, number one, because they dominate the manufacturing supply chains of the whole world, but number two, because who's going to surveil them? They, out of everybody, have been pretty sophisticated in keeping their own national security and internal surveillance nationalist in its construction.
They don't have a border problem in China.
They don't have a border problem in China. Yeah, and they got countrywide mountain ranges and deserts out there, and territorial China is not an easy place to surveil. It's not an easy place to control a border, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got Afghanistan out there. You got you got you got the entirety of Russia on your border. I mean, it's a big place to try and
police.
Well, because the United States is different because we have two oceans on the coasts, and so it creates a sort of coastal, infrastructure advantage where you can see people. What the fuck are you going to swim up to the country? I mean, you can, but by and large, you got to bring a boat up to this bitch if you're going to try and hop off and make landfall, right? You can't just in continental Europe, Asia, and Africa. You could actually walk to China's border from a number of places, from half of the world's landmass. You could walk to their border. They don't have no border problems. They don't have a single border. We got border problems with their people coming here. And they actually have 1.2 billion people, but there's a lot of people living there in India. The people in India aren't flooding across the border to China, and they're in abject poverty. Nobody can control China's population. Not population, but pollution output. Nobody's overseeing it. So there is no climate initiative until somebody actually can rein in China as an international alliance or governing body, which I'm not suggesting we create or do. but it's just a scam. And if the people that live around Lake Calhoun don't know that, I just want to start going up the doors and knocking on them and say, hey, can I talk to you about this climate initiative? What do you think about China's role in it? And when you ask them online, they actually have a response. Their response is that America is further along as a modern economy, and therefore America has to allow China to go through the same period of growth that we went through, and China's not as modern as we are, and that's the justification for them to be able to have pollution 3 times as much as any other country combined. See, these type of people, so when we get to that level, I just go, fuck you, because what are you know what, you have to either be on dope, in which case I really can't have a rational conversation with you, right? You're a fucking heroin addict. I mean, okay, I'm not saying there are people who are on heroin who don't say things that are valid, but I'm saying as a general principle, when you're on a heroin high or in between, it kind of, this is why in courtrooms, if you're a drug addict, your testimony is somewhat, it loses credibility, right? If you're a fucking heroin addict or an LSD addict or whatever the case may be, I can't sit here and have a coherent conversation with you and it'd be valid. And so it's either that or they're actually just putting people on like they're gaslighting us. And that I won't tolerate either. Fuck you. I mean, what are you trying to tell me? That we should let China pollute the world? That the past, so now the climate change initiative is contingent upon the anthropological history of Earth and civilization?
Yeah, it's a twofer. They get social equity and climate change initiatives going. The whole point of the climate change narrative feeds into the equity issue, which is the belief in, which when I was young, this was a purely like recycle your banana peel, sustainability. I remember when sustainability morphed from recycling your banana peels to we all have to have equitable outcomes to sustain the planet. And it took me a long time to realize what they were saying. And what they're saying is communism.
Right.
And this is what this initiative is bringing forth.
So now I see what's going on. So China gets to pollute as much as they want to because their airports are pretty. Or because they're communists.
They're communists.
There you go. Now we're getting to it. So
they're running the deal.
The climate change initiative is the
lever.
Yes.
To deindustrialize the United States, make the United States.
Say it again.
It's the lever to deindustrialize the United States, to spread the wealth and the prosperity that was a product of republicanism, which I'm noticing the left here is now calling us fascists because we believe in the philosophy of republicanism. It's republicanism that brought about self-governance and individual becoming the rights granted to me by a creator. That brought about so much creativity. That freedom brought so much creativity, so much prosperity, so much well-being. We got such a leg up on the world with this idea. We became the United States of America, Pax Americana, the big dog in the pound. And then somebody's looked at this and said, and I think it was somebody in our own academic elite, they said, this is not sustainable. And I'm not even sure they had, I was reading Einstein wrote a positive paper about communism. I think the intellectual elites believed that difference created the conditions for conflict. I don't know if that's so good logically. I don't know if that's really the issue, but that's what they thought. So I think the powers that be, particularly our powers that be, because what is the ambition of our leaders?
Communism.
They want to rule the globe.
Right.
The United States of America.
Statism.
It's not good enough for them.
Right.
America's not good enough. Our people are not good enough for our PhDs and our technocrats. They have a bigger ambition. And the only way they can pull it off is level the playing field.
But they never want to level it with themselves.
Well, of course, they got PhDs because one race is superior and another is inferior has mostly been discredited. I mean, we still have racists, but we've been moving away from that kind of Darwinist, that kind of racial purity, eugenicist, genocide idea. And it's
Neo-Darwinism is classist, and it's
about intelligence.
Academic.
They've just taken it because we've
credentials.
gotten away from the physical.
Yeah.
We've now become intellectualized. So now if you have your PhD, Now you're the Anglo-Saxon. You could be black, you could be brown, but if you have a PhD, you're with the Anglo-Saxons, as Vladimir Putin likes to call us. That's how he refers to us and the British, the Anglos, because it's not Anglo-Saxon, but it's the philosophy that holds one race superior and another inferior that is just morphed into an intellectual perspective. And that's why those people around that lake believe the way they do, because they actually think, and matter of fact, they don't have any problem putting it on X. They think you're stupid.
Right.
I mean, they really think you're stupid, which I find hilarious because I'm pretty smart and I have a hard time sometimes keeping up with you. You make me work. We were just at that political gathering. When did we go? Was that Wednesday night?
Who knows? They all run together now.
Well, I think it was Wednesday. We drove out to that cornfield, right?
That was down in
Hastings.
CD2.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking.
Drew Roach.
Drew is great.
If you're in that district,
vote for Drew.
Vote for Drew Roach.
Drew is fantastic.
Yeah, American patriot.
But we're driving down there. I started thinking it was like the last scene in Casino.
Right.
It was scaring me. But we get down there and you stand up in front of this crowd of people. They're good Minnesotans, Republicans. And you started to talk about the dollar does not need to be the reserve currency and what a scam it was that it is the reserve currency. And, that's just taking Donald Trump's deconstruction of global trade
down to the root.
Because that's the linchpin of the deal, right?
Right.
You just went right for the bread. He's doing the same thing. And I think he's probably smart enough to know he's doing the same thing. I think he is. See, that's another guy they call stupid. That's
Right.
another guy they call stupid. Yet they're so afraid of him that they're willing to do anything to stop him.
That was the one. Turn this way. Turn this
Okay,
way.
yeah.
Yeah, go that way.
Okay.
That was the one thing that Weinstein said in the clip that I posted. It went viral. I think it was like 2 million people have seen it now. I think Rogan reposted it on X, which is cool. I've been knowing Eric now for a while, but the one thing I disagreed with him on is saying that the type B democracy of these democratic institutions that sprang out after World War II that are these load-bearing walls, I don't agree that they're load-bearing walls. I think his take was that the intelligence community and the Department of Defense and the administrative state and all these other government agencies need to bring this question or this issue or this problem of type A democracy competing and potentially threatening the stability of type B democracy, that's the issue. That's where I disagree with him. I think the belief or the premise that the type B democracy of these democratic institutions are load-bearing walls for global peace and stability, I think that's the actual lie. I don't think it's a I don't think NATO is a load-bearing wall for modern society and peace.
Well,
I don't think our agreement with Israel is a load-bearing wall. Again, a lot of people who are pro-Israel, and I've talked to many of them, they've called me because I'm obviously been thrusted into the middle of that conversation on a number of occasions. A lot of Jewish people who called me say we don't support AIPAC either, or we don't believe in America funding Israel either. We'd like to make our own weapons. Their take on it is we would like to have
independence.
We would like to have independence. We would like to have the shackles taken off of us in dealing with these conflicts in our own area, the same way America gets to choose how they deal with their conflicts with no restrictions. And we do enjoy that luxury. We can talk about a Security Council all we want to. France, bitch. Great Britain, bitch. Russia, adversary, obviously, but they've played nice over the years. China, so I mean, the Security Council isn't really the Security Council of the United Nations are America's project. It's American.
Lavrov just addressed the United Nations General Assembly. He's the he's like the foreign minister of Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a beautiful line. And I think American citizens need to find this stuff and look at it. We run it on the podcast. And he looked at it, he said, you all came up with this idea of globalization, and now you're wrecking it. What are you doing? Because they kind of like it, right?
The Russians.
Yeah,
They asked to be in on it.
Right.
Vladimir Putin, two of the smartest things he did, and I said this when we were down there, the smartest thing Vladimir Putin did that I can recall from his entire time as leader there in Russia, the smartest thing he did was when this war popped off with Ukraine. Smartest thing in his entire during his entire time is he put America on blast. He put the entire
dollar system,
global economy on blast. He put the entire United States dollar hegemony on Front Street.
Kind of the way Donald Trump ripped the face off of the Chinese by putting taxes on their imports. And they always acted so friendly and nice and smiles. But as soon as the 25% tax got whipped out, they got pretty ugly. And that has led to this period of, deep freeze between the United States and China. Well, the same way what Putin did. He started that. What you're saying is he
started a war.
And what do? They weaponized the dollar.
And the first thing that Joe Biden said to him,
weaponization.
First thing that Joe Biden says in the 48 hours or 72 hours after the war began is that they were going to take Vladimir Putin off the SWIFT banking system. And there was the tip right there. There was the tell. And the whole world saw it. I mean, your average American citizen sitting at home saying, "Oh, Russia's is killing Ukrainians, and there's going to be a war now." They're not thinking about that. But if you're a world leader, if you're the leader there in Qatar, if you're the leader there in Iran, if you're the leader in Saudi Arabia or India or Australia or anywhere, you're thinking to yourself, "Whoa, what does this mean?" That anybody who doesn't play nice is gonna be frozen out of the banking system. And the funny thing is, and I said this to you the other day, the second thing that it did was it showed the United States dollar and the entire global fiat currency system for the scam that it is, because they did try and strong arm and freeze Vladimir Putin out economically. He called their bluff, and he has now said or he has positioned himself in a way that draws down on what I've been saying about the United States dollar in general, is that it is a scam. And he's proven it and I said this to you the other day, how is Russia able to still operate if they've been frozen out by the entire world economy? Because there is no world economy without the people who manufacture your essential goods and your supplies, and that's China.
And Russia's got the oil. So really, the dollar is the dollar and the SWIFT banking system and the entire economic hegemony is only as strong as what you have for natural resources and what you can produce, what your people are willing to produce, the exchange of energy for goods and services and products. So the dollar system is crumbling. And it was fake to begin with, but now people are challenging whether. Well, they call it fiat, so there you go.
It's fake.
Right.
It's a fugazi.
It's done quite well for a very long time.
Hey, and what I'm saying is,
and they're going to they're going to double down on fugazi. When it fails, we're going to go digital.
Universal basic income.
Right, which is like
nothing. Nothing of nothing.
Right.
You got 100% of nothing.
And then they're rolling the robots out to do the work. I mean, it's so anti-human. See, when you talk.
Can you imagine? I mean, can you imagine when all of your money it's
digital?
It's already like that, really, for the most part. Right. I mean, when you use a credit card or you have a bank account there and
credits,
reserve fractional reserve banking. That was the predicate for where we're at now. The bank only has to hold so much of your actual money because they know how much money you're going to need at any one time, and that's the social engineering of it. You have rent, you have whatever it is. You have food to buy, gas. You got your utility bills. You might have some extra money for spending, but you're not really going to go over this limit. If you do, you got to call the bank and you got to make an appointment and you got to tell them how much cash you need, and then they'll call a central bank if they need to get those paperbacks over there to you, and you can come get it either today in about 6 hours or tomorrow, or maybe we'll have it for you by Monday morning or whatever the case may be. Maybe they have it on. Mostly they'll have it on hand because people don't really go and get cash like that anymore. That's the slow progression of this dystopian financial system. And now we're to the point where everything's going to be digital. You're never going to see the cash. Well, that would be how you could actually perpetuate an economic Ponzi scheme where your world elites continue to transfer actual wealth, goods, resources, ownership of property, continue to transfer it to themselves, and you still believe that you're okay, that you have money. You don't have money. You have what the system's allowing you to have.
You have pixels on a screen.
You have numbers on a screen is what you have. It's going completely fiat. It's not even fractional reserve. Now it's going to be completely fiat. I mean, 100%.
And we have economists at all the universities where we send our kids, teaching our kids about modern monetary theory, MMT. And they're taught that the government has no limit to what it can borrow, and there's no limit to what money it can print. They just don't tell the second half of the story. Our net worth is the guarantee, and when they want to take it, they're just going to take it. That's what it is. It's part of the communist takeover, the global communist takeover. Equity, climate change, democracy. Democracy equals, democracy really, the post-World War II Democrat liberal order, actually communism.
Right.
Right?
That's what I said.
I'm saying.
Turn this way for me. You keep turning this way. Turn that way. Yeah, that's what I said.
I agree with you.
The bad guys won World War II. Communists. All of them.
Even the ones right here in the good old US of A.
Especially the ones right here. That's the whole point.
Well, maybe it was the fascists here because they were Nazis.
Doesn't matter.
Same thing.
You call them what you want.
Ideologies of the left.
These people are statists. They're totalitarian. They're authoritarian. They're corrupt. They'll use their money to concentrate power. They'll wield the power to protect the power. And they'll crush anybody in their path, especially the average person.
How is it that our country, which is guaranteed by the Constitution, every state is guaranteed a Republican form of governance? It's a guarantee. It's in the Constitution. How is it that we imported what we admit to?
There is no Constitution. There is no Constitution.
Go ahead.
What? There's no Constitution. Same where there's no fucking dollar. Scam. There is no Constitution. They've amended the thing and corrupted the thing and disregarded the thing anytime they need. The Constitution, they call it a living document for a reason. The spirit of it has to be upheld. The integrity of the spirit of the document has to be upheld. That's what the rule of law, the real rule of law,
the intent
idea means.
Self-governance.
Is that the rule of law actually upholds the spirit of the United States Constitution, that which people can trust in as a populace, and thus there's the peace, right? When man predicated on God mostly, right?
Republicanism.
When man submits his passions to his reason and his reason to God, he can have peace within himself and then peace within other people. This is St. Thomas Aquinas. So there is no Constitution anymore, and we're seeing that. We believe in it, same way we believe in the dollar. It's a hope it's like a hope and a prayer. So that's why when they're saying that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, what they're really saying is Donald Trump has obviously made a decision, at least in part, that the game is the jig is up. The cover has been pulled off of this thing. It may be time to topple the whole table, and we're not playing. We're going to go to blows now.
If you take,
they're already doing it. Imagine this is American cuckery, right? This is the average American citizen, mostly men, being cucked because it's the men who still believe in the thing. If the men stop believing in it, the women wouldn't really have a choice. That's just a matter of biological fact, right? I'm not saying that women don't have a choice in society, but if the men stopped believing in the bullshit and we decided we wanted to play by a different set of rules, that would be which tells you a lot about this entire fallacy that men and women are equal. We're not. Women have become and risen to the place that men have allowed, which is fine. I'm not saying that's wrong. There are problems with it for sure, but it's relatively it's given us a better society than before. I don't believe in women being property, obviously, but we have an American cuck issue of men. Men have and I love Donald Trump made the joke, last night about the, the women that are voting for, I mean, the white dudes for Kamala, and he says, there's this group called White Dudes for Kamala Harris, and it's okay, it's okay. I understand their wives and their wives' lovers are still voting for me. Hilarious, just
That's really
classic,
funny.
classic at the dinner. But it's true. This is that American cuckery where we actually want to believe in the thing, in the system, so badly that we're willing to let our government and these elite puppet politicians and these corporate CEOs or whoever else, we're willing to let the powers that be completely rig and cheat the game, cheat the rules right in front of us, and we still pretend like the rules exist. They don't exist. There are no rules. And that's just it. People don't want to admit that, but they're showing you that even when the entire legal system, the one thing that you could say about the legal system being guilty, when I was out there leading these protests after George Floyd died, and I heard people saying the whole system is guilty, here I am thinking, no, we're onto it. The system's real guilty. The place where it's guilty is they know any legal situation that happens is mostly predicated on financial resources. That if you can pay an attorney good enough or a team of attorneys good enough, in most cases, that'll make your problems go away. And for the poor and for the low middle class, the working class, who can't afford extra money to hire, professional legal counsel that come from one of these elitist universities, they're at the mercy of the court, or they're at the mercy of their peers, a jury, who in many cases has been just as miseducated and misled and manipulated as anybody else. In fact, probably the same as everybody else.
So
it's a
we're
random
saying
jury.
there's a system.
But the system is guilty.
The system of elite educated attorneys.
But what I'm saying is the system is guilty.
People that have the money,
right?
And the people that can't get vindicated
Right.
go into the system and then justify its existence.
The system, the guilt in the system actually is best seen in the legal domain. It's the most clearly distinguishable line from the have and the have-nots, and an acceptance that it's not about the actual rules or the laws. There is a cultural consensus and acceptance that when you enter into the domain of law, the justice system, the legal system, it's not actually about the rules. It's not actually about the law. It's about how much money you have, how many resources you have, and what side of the political momentum you're on. It's the best example that there are no rules. Which makes that ironic, too, because the one system that's supposed to protect the rules is the one system that shows us there are no rules. There are no rules.
Well, there's different rules.
They make them up as they go.
You're describing a different set of rules.
They make them up as they go. There are no rules.
Well, that would be the rule.
The
rule is there's no rules.
There you go. The rule is there are no rules. No holds bar. We'll do what we want. We'll make it up as we go. Even judges, and they have all these, criminal codes and, mandatory sentencing. And, it's just, it's a scam. It's just as much of a scam as the dollar. And people are starting to question it. Now, the flip side of that coin is it could be real if you had real leadership that had integrity. But we have a crisis of those two things. We have a crisis of leadership and integrity. So there are no rules, and it's even more severe. It's even worse when you have a crisis of leadership and integrity like we do today. There is a radical, a profound lack of rules. So the dollar is like the dollar was going to remain neutral.
That's how it was sold.
Lack of rules. Where was the rule, though? Who was supposed to maintain the rule?
Trust me.
Right.
And
You
God,
go first.
It's right on there. In God we trust.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, and good luck to you all. Good luck to you all. I'm at that point with it. If you want to believe in fairy tale, and then they say God isn't real. That's the funny fucking part. God's not real? No, your entire construction of reality and society is what's fake.
And-
It's not God
and
that's
it's
fake.
fake for the purpose of controlling, manipulating, and then, in my opinion, reducing human population.
Mm.
So it's pretty anti-human. That's
Yeah.
why I was talking earlier about these robots. Whether they were real or not, how do we know? We don't even know.
We don't even know anymore.
We don't even know.
We can't tell what's real fake
But, you know,
anymore.
we have this strike going on in these ports.
We
and
know
this-
that's real.
Well, those people walked off, and that is about automation.
Right.
It appears to be, or how it's fenced is, it's about, they got a 60%, who gets a 60% pay increase? But that really, they're going to strike again, possibly in January, because what they're doing is they're fighting for their jobs, because most of these top ports around the world, like Rotterdam, they're completely automated. There's no human beings there. Everything's AI, everything's robotics. There's a factory there.
Unmanned port.
Unmanned. The boats are going to be unmanned.
Right.
I mean, what are we going to do with all these
Why
people?
do we even need crews on boats at this point?
Why do we?
As good as drone technology is, and I mean, why haven't they already gone to unmanned boats?
They are going to unmanned boats.
Do
and
they have unmanned boats already?
Yes, and they're going to unmanned airplanes. They're called drones.
Well, we know about the drones.
Well,
And
I
we know
mean-
about the trucks. You know, they got automated cars. What is the word for that? They
Autonomous vehicles.
autonomous. They got autonomous cars. That's already there. Drones, yeah, not airplanes, but I'm saying commercial. Well, there are. I saw that. I saw they're talking about going to fully
The
automated.
only reason those pilots are up there is so people are relaxed to get in the planes. Those planes are already automated.
But you could fly a plane on manual.
You could, but I'll tell you, there's a friend of mine, someone you know, Thomas the Good, that he says in the cockpits now of these airplanes, there's two pilots and a monkey. And the monkey is there to bite the hand of any pilot that tries to touch any controls, because they take off by themselves, they land by themselves. They're just up there to make us relax, kind of like our police. Our police are just there to make us. They're not going to save my ass. They're going to come. They're going to come clean up the mess.
The illusion of security.
It's the illusion of that's correct.
Just like the illusion of choice. Right?
The illusion of free will.
Right.
But we still have free will.
No, not free will. The illusion of choice.
Well, those two are kind of related, aren't they?
Nope. I'm saying that they give you the illusion of multiple choices, which all circle back to the same outcome for them.
Well,
You usually got the free will to choose, but
we got free will to set up our own deal.
the choices
here.
they give you are
That's
an
why
illusion.
we're sitting here.
Right.
You're a novel choice on the political field. That's why you're getting so much pushback. People don't like to hear the wrong people won World War II because they're gum dipped. They want to believe in the fairy tale. I mean, we're waking up. We're collectively waking up from a fairy tale, actually from a nightmare. And it's a question of how many wake up, how soon. And when they wake up, how willing are they to reverse this? Because it's not going to just reverse because we sit around and talk about it. It's going to take some risk.
So
risk.
what do you think about? So what do you think about Iran?
What do I think about Iran? Whoa, Iran, the Persian,
Yeah.
the Persian Empire. I don't know where they got that name, Iran. I'm going to have to look that up because it's the Persians. It's a very old culture. They're badass over there. And, you know, the Israelis took 200 incoming, I don't know, it's like 3 weeks ago. And every day I wake up and they're going to attack today. And they never attack.
Iran?
Yeah, they don't attack. Why don't they attack? Well, the Biden administration offered them compensation to not attack before the election. And who even knows if they're going to attack after the election?
Compensation.
Oh, yeah, they offered them money to not attack. Well, because Israel was going to attack Iran's oil infrastructure. And it would look a little crappy if the gas price went to $8 a gallon 3 weeks before the election. So they offered them money. They took the money. They didn't attack. The strategy to me seems to be avoiding a direct confrontation with Iran. I don't think anybody wants it. But they're going to crush the Hezbollah, the Hamas, and the Houthis. Those folks are getting crushed. Iran, I think they pose a formidable military deterrence to Israel and Israeli expansion in the Middle East. Those rockets are probably more effective than we're being told. Where's the Israeli military response? Every day they're going to respond. They're going to respond before the election. Okay, let's see it. Let's see it. And the Russians put
To Iran, but they are responding in Yemen and
they're killing everybody. They just
Lebanon
killed.
and
Yeah. Sinwar just got killed yesterday. Did you see that? The military leader of Hamas, and the picture was posted. Woo, that was a large caliber sniper rifle that killed him. It was, and we have to look at these images. They post them with glee and excitement. You know, he might be a bad dude. Still got killed. It's nothing to, I mean, I just can't celebrate people getting killed like that. I know people do celebrate it.
yeah,
I don't like it. Still a death.
death isn't natural.
Not that kind of a death.
No death. Death is not natural.
You mean in total?
Right.
So we're going to go into kind of a,
I won't go there, but it makes sense that you don't like death in general because death isn't natural.
well, it's just unfortunate, the celebration of it.
Right. Well,
I
that's
don't-
that's just arrogant.
That's right. It's arrogant.
That's arrogant. Lack of sacred honor.
But these, the Iranians are in this military alliance with the Russians and the Chinese. These people are pretty integrated. They call it the Iron Triangle because it can never be broken. For example, the Iranians are selling oil to the Chinese. The Chinese are paying them in RMB, or excuse me, they're paying for the oil in RMB. Then the Iranians have the RMB and they're buying finished goods back from the Chinese, recycling that RMB. They're getting off the dollar hegemony doing this. And the Russians are doing the same thing. Apropos to your comment that the dollar is kind of a scam.
It is a scam. Yeah. Now they're going to prove it.
Well, they are proving it.
They are proving it.
Right.
Right. Right.
And what are they asking for? They're asking for what they call a multipolar world. So the new thing I'm thinking about.
Well, the only reason the scam has continued to work up until this point is because those people bought the scam. They bought it. They were in on the scam.
Well, they were getting benefits from it.
Right. I mean, but it's always been a multipolar world. It's always been multipolar. So we're not going to a
Well,
multipolar
some folks
world.
were hiding
Right.
their multipolarity.
Right. They're just making it more public.
Right. They're letting everybody know that they played us because our academic elites got played. They believe. I mean, I was there.
Arrogance. Unfettered.
I think just stupidity. I mean, they got played by.
No, I these people were arrogant. Like Zygmunt and Kissinger. You go back and you watch them. They were pompous, pretentious, know-it-all. Highly credentialed. That was a fugazi. In and of itself. I mean, at some level, this sort of esoteric geopolitical military jargon that you have to be initiated in to be a head of state. A Secretary of State like Zygmunt Brzezinski was and Henry Kissinger. It's what is it based on? It's all based on theory. It's all based on theory and then selling the theory to the next academic asshole who will believe it.
And when you sell it and it passes itself out through all the academic, like Mackinder's World Island theory.
Right.
It's dominating everything. Still to this day. We're over with the Ukraine. The Ukraine is the linchpin of the Eurasian landmass. It's the heartland. The
Right.
whole theory. I mean, do American citizens really know about John Mackinder?
Yeah. No.
They don't know.
Nobody knows.
But all the people that went to, and he's like me, I learned it. I mean, they teach it. And then all these people matriculate, they get their PhD in political science, and they join the Democrat Party as an operative. And 20 years later, it's Secretary Anthony Blinken. In the back of his beady brain is John Mackinder's World Island theory. So it makes perfect sense to our elite to go to war to keep the Chinese and Russians from dominating the world island, because that's control of the world. These guys are playing a game with each other, with our money and our children. I don't care. I really, truly don't care about this. I really would like to see our country give up this addiction to human arrogance, to the human intellect, and reel it back in. That's really what republicanism was all about. The philosophy of republicanism, ending corruption. It's corrupt to believe there's no God and you're God. I mean, human beings believe these people believe they're God.
Right.
I mean, it's very risky business to walk around with that as your modus operandi. There's no limit
Why do they all tilt homosexual?
Because
Is that indicative of the spiritual crisis too?
no, of course not. It's ritual. Because it says in the Old Testament,
Spiritual crisis. That's what I'm saying.
if you are a homosexual and get caught, they're going to stone your ass to death. So it's just a way to reverse the fundamental building block of Western culture, which led to the philosophy of republicanism.
And I'm not saying that homosexuals. Well, I want to make this distinction. I think homosexuals are in defiance of God, but I'm talking about the use of the LGBTQ and homosexuality from these individuals that we're talking about is different in its motivation than your average homosexual on the street. I think they're being played too. I think they're getting used. I think your average homosexual guy probably is really attracted to men. He's not doing it as some deep-seated spiritual, intellectual, rebellion. I mean, maybe it is at the deepest level, but I don't think consciously. I think there are women who actually believe they're sexually attracted to other women, or they're more, they're better suited in relationships with other women. Same with men. But I'm talking, but the use of the LGBTQ and homosexuality by our modern day elites is completely philosophical in nature.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're taking, because
Got to make that distinction.
you can't.
Because I know some gay dudes that are voting for me now. I had two gay guys, a gay couple, come up to me on the street. I was standing there. Two gay guys walked up to me, and I'm thinking, oh shit, this might be a fight. I don't know what's gonna happen here. This could get tricky. And they were like, Royce, good to meet you. Just want to tell you, you have our vote. Wow, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Because every American citizen is due the full protection of this Constitution, which you say is a scam.
Right.
But what we're trying to do as Republicans is restore.
It's a scam if nobody follows it.
Right. If we want to have the sacred honor back, and I'll tell you how to do it. It's very simple. Let's say here in Minnesota, which is a communist state. We're communist. I don't want to hear the word Democrat. You can use the word Democrat. It's fine. Democrat, liberal,
You're under
progressive.
the governorship of a communist.
Right.
Tim Walz is a communist.
That's what we're doing here.
This is not even an argument.
Okay.
Okay.
So we work. How do we do it? Well, like on Sunday, we're going to be in the street, right? Republicans are going back in the street. We're going to reclaim our country constitutionally, theoretically, by just practicing our constitutionally guaranteed right to assemble, right to free speech. We're going to try to convince people, give them a permission structure to look like these gay people that you're talking about. They are interested in having a country. They're not globalists. They must be voting for you because they're nationalists, which is cool. But
Or maybe they just don't want to get, robbed going to their car, after work. Maybe they just don't want to give their tax money to, illegal immigrants, or
whatever is motivating.
maybe they don't want to pay extra for bread. Maybe just they don't have to be nationalists. I don't need you to identify as a nationalist to vote for Donald Trump. Just vote for not spending 300% more on bread. You don't have to call it anything. That's another thing. We've kind of over-intellectualized our entire culture. It's like nationalism and communism, and that's part of the whole fucking psyop. It's like there's really a separation between communism and fascism and liberalism and conservatism at the highest level. At the highest level, they're all a bunch of warmongering, power-hungry assholes. That's what it is.
Who divide us so that we can't
Yeah.
organize and get the control back.
Yeah,
from
even the naming of it is kind of fugazi. I mean, it's intellectually useful to try and sort things out and track things, but at the end of the day, even that is kind of escape.
There's
It's kind of a scapegoat for us to get out of the real final analysis. Like, oh, well, we don't have. There's all these isms that we have to sort through to try and get.
Do you want to
the
self-govern?
final result?
Do you want to self-govern?
Oh, bullshit! These motherfuckers are corrupt. All of them.
Tyrants.
All of them. They're corrupt. And the tell is going to be the U.S. dollar. If I get in the Senate, you'll be able to see everybody clear as day who doesn't want to take us off of the United States dollar being the world's reserve currency.
Oh, you stood up and said that. We didn't get to finish my thought. We went to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you actually went in there. It was interesting. You were talking, so you didn't get to watch the crowd's response.
Mm-hmm.
I got to sit off to the side. I filmed it. I was filming the people. Some very stoned faces. It's kind of like talking to a drug addict and trying to take their drugs away. It's kind of the same kind of energy. Like, what do you mean you're taking my drugs away? You know what's that saying? Don't get between a junkie and his drugs. It's a problem, right? These people are junked out on the dollar. We're junked out on materialism. We are. And you stood up there. These people were. Some of the people were clapping. They got it. But most people in the room, they're going, "What does he mean?" Because that is the source of our pride and our strength.
The U.S. dollar.
Yeah.
Money.
Right. And what protects the money?
Military.
The military.
Right.
And that's their self-image.
Neocons.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's the problem.
And you stood up there and you said.
I said it. I've been saying it since I started the campaign. The problem are these fucking neocons. It's a plague. The entire ideology, if you want to talk about an ideology that's worth mentioning, neoconservatism, this military-industrial complex conservatism, is the ideology that is worth mentioning.
And Pat, apropos to your comment that the isms are kind of a scam, wow, did those folks all jump in with Vice
Kamala
President Harris? Unbelievable.
Yeah. Communists.
Boy, that was very quick for them to do.
Yeah.
They didn't even have to think about it.
It would appear the conservative patriot wing of the mainstream Republican Party are actually communists after all.
They're the swing voters.
Nikki Haley.
Right.
Great.
Ron
It finished them.
Ron DeSantis.
You know, did you remember when let's talk about that. I want to go back. I'll go back to the dollar in a minute, but do you remember Nikki Haley calling for Israel to finish them? These people are fucking psychopaths. I mean, they're fucking dumb. No, seriously.
Lindsey Graham.
That's fucking
another
dumb.
one. Lindsey Graham.
What do they mean? I don't even think they knew what they meant by it. But part of me thinks they do.
Oh
which
no,
makes
they
them
know.
Psycho.
Oh no, they know. They know. They do know.
Okay, well then nobody should ever vote for them again. Because one, even if you said, "Hey, we're going to fight a war to the death. Somebody's going to win. Somebody's going to lose. We're going to be the ones to win." That's understandable. But they know we're not going to win the war. They know we're not going to win. There's no winning. We didn't win in Iraq. We didn't win in Afghanistan. We didn't win in Vietnam. We didn't win in Korea. The last place we won a war, the Russians were on our side. And now the Russians are on their side. So when you say finish the Hamas first of all, they're not a group of people. It's an idea. It's a repudiation of the modern construction of the world's economy and culture and Western way of life.
Western domination.
Yeah, it's
neocolonialism.
It's a spiritual rebellion.
Instead of taking over your country, we're going to take over your mind. These people don't want to give up what they believe.
Right. So there is no finishing them. That's ridiculous. They're trying to either buy them off, which they've somewhat
working
been
pretty good.
Successful with.
Getting most of them. They just got it down. They got it down to a narrow group.
Yeah, but I don't think so. Nah, they got them down to a narrow group of
leaders.
Of leaders.
Right, but they're also taking that money and putting their people on the payroll. It's about creating dependency in the population. It's about giving people an opportunity
Slavery.
to choose. Walk into the prison yourself.
Yeah.
Choose to be governed. And the benefit is that we're going to take care of you. Self-governance is a hard one.
But the point is, Iran's population is probably what you'd say
80 million maybe.
2 times at least what Iraq's was when we went into Iraq.
Yeah, something like that.
Probably 2 times as big.
I can look, but it is bigger population for
bigger
sure.
population in Iran than Iraq. Much more organized militarily. Much more ideologically driven than Iraq was, and we couldn't keep Iraq under control. We've lost Iraq now.
To the Iranians.
In fact, yeah, yeah.
They're part of the axis of evil.
Iran and Iraq, one state, the Iranian state,
all the way to Syria.
Yeah,
down to Yemen.
Lebanon. Iran has taken.
It's almost as if Israel is surrounded. That's why Netanyahu says he's fighting a 7-front war, because they're surrounded, for real surrounded, because those people would not knuckle under to the post-World War II Democrat liberal order. They are.
And why would they? I'm not defending them. I'm not saying that they're right or that that I would want to live in Iran under the Ayatollah. But what I'm saying is, why would they knuckle under? and this is where the real corruption was in the narrative. Why the fuck would we create a world order based on a natural resource that wasn't readily found or produced or exported here in our own country? Because then we didn't have dominion over it. There was the arrogance. That's what makes the petrodollar such a fucking Trojan horse. You know, and you can tell me Kissinger didn't know? Am I smarter than Henry Kissinger? I don't know, maybe. But I wouldn't tend to say so.
It's part of that Eurasian landmass.
But that's my point, though.
Point.
The point is, we
put them on the payroll.
But the point is, the natural resource was not within our own territorial boundaries.
Yes, it was. It most certainly was. Those people are global in scope.
Who?
Kissinger.
No. The oil.
They thought it was theirs.
But no, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
No, they didn't.
Of course they did.
No, they didn't.
Hey, you know what? The British were
No,
in there.
they didn't think
Yes,
it was theirs. No,
of course they did.
put us in a position where inevitably America would be brought out over its fucking skis and hung off of a cliff. Don't let these people's pride and their arrogance stand in and scapegoat for their real dubious fucking plans. Their real plan was to drag us out and destroy this country. It wasn't their own aggrandizement. They could live wherever. Kissinger can live in fucking Europe.
Hey, you know what?
Yeah,
We're
he
saying
can
the
go
same
back
thing.
and live in Poland.
They're global.
Kissinger can live in
They're
Davos,
global
Switzerland.
in their scope.
But my point is,
they can only have the global outcome
why
if
would you
America
ever
gets weakened.
Why would you ever? Why would you ever? Why would they ever bend the knee? Why would they bend the knee to a natural resource that belongs to them? And it does. The oil belongs to them. This is what I'm saying. This goes back to the first question about the energy. And there are people who believe that that the American government, that there's a shadow government that's been suppressing advanced technology and energy since before World War II, since the days of Nikola Tesla. And if that's the case, then it's completely plausible that there's a consortium of intellectual and academic and engineering and scientific elites that have used energy as a means to dominate and promulgate war and whatever they use it. But the energy is the central issue. The energy is always the central issue. Why in the fuck would we ever get ourselves conflated there in the Middle East with people who don't have our culture, who don't think the same way we do, who don't speak our language, why would we ever get ourselves entangled with their natural resource, which we didn't need? We didn't need the oil. We still don't need it. We got enough oil here. There's enough oil in South America. Venezuela is the second largest exporter of oil in the world? There's oil in Mexico. There's oil here in America. We didn't need the oil.
So why did we do it?
We did it to put the United States dollar reserve currency dependent on an area that would never be stable. So thus the dollar's never stable. As long as the dollar's tied to the energy and the place where the energy is always at war, then the dollar's always unstable.
And unstable is good?
Unstable seems to be, we're good for them.
It's worked great for them.
Yeah, they've had the best run in human history. On an unstable dollar, the top 1% has made off with the biggest transfer of wealth in known human history. How does that happen?
Happens by people not voting. That's how.
There you go. Amen.
Not going to the street, not showing up.
Yeah.
Hating each other over tribal differences that are constructed for them in universities, which is starting to heal a little bit. Which really
artificial. That's that's real artificial.
Yeah.
That's the war of isms.
That is.
The war of isms is a complete distraction. That's why I said the bad guys.
The election is a
II.
distraction. If you really want to get into it,
yeah.
The election itself is a distraction.
Hey, well, yes. Yeah.
Sorry. I know you're giving it your all.
Yeah.
I'm watching you do it.
Yeah.
But it is kind of a fugazi.
Well.
It is kind of a fugazi.
No.
Yeah, there is an element of fugazi to it. And
for sure. There's an element of it.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you
what.
But
the realness of the elections is, turn this way for me. The realness of the election is the spirit of the election, the spirit of the people.
Well, it's the exercise of free will of the people.
Right.
Right. But if you were to win, in my opinion, we'd have one authentic senator out of 100. Got to start somewhere. But it's not like life's going to.
Probably 4, but.
Well, there's some other ones, but I mean, at the level you're playing the game, hey, I can just
I'll say this: not one of them, not another one of them, even in the four that I would mention.
Who are the four? I'm curious.
If Kerry wins,
She's not a senator now.
but if she wins,
Who's in there right now?
Ron
Johnson.
Paul,
What about Ron Johnson over in Wisconsin?
Ron Johnson,
Okay, Rand Paul. It's cool. Come on.
Hawley.
Okay.
Is he? He seems all right.
He seems all right.
I had to take a closer look at how he's voted, but he seems
He's very well educated and he speaks very well.
he speaks very well.
Speaks very well. And I think he's Harvard or Yale or something like that.
Oh shit.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Well, I can't disregard everybody who goes to Harvard or Yale, but my suspicions my red flags go up right away when I hear it. So, but Hawley, okay, let's say Hawley. Who else is in there? Who
Who can you liaison with if we?
There's three right there.
Great, got to start.
None
somewhere.
of them would say we should take the world the dollar off the world currency.
Well, that's
the world
the point.
reserve currency. So you're right.
I mean, you're outflanking the whole program.
And I'll say this, and I hope they clip it. I hope 2-3 weeks out from this election, I hope the Star Tribune and Axios.
They're going to.
And the Washington Post and Mother Jones and whoever else. I hope they're stupid enough to fucking clip this and make it go viral. The United States dollar as the reserve currency is America's greatest liability. 100% is America's greatest liability. And anybody who doesn't understand that, feel free.
What do you mean anybody? Very
Feel
few
free.
people understand this.
No, they the people I'm talking to understand it.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Oh, they get it.
Just at the highest level.
No, it's pretty basic. If the dollar is based on if the stability of the United States dollar is greatly based on energy, and the energy is greatly based in a place that's always at war and unstable, then the dollar is unstable. If the dollar is unstable, then the working class and the middle class are always susceptible to economic tyranny from their elites who can justify wars or anything else they need to justify on the basis of some geopolitical esoteric narrative.
Our interest.
Yeah, national interest, whatever the fuck they want to call it. But it's not a difficult concept. In fact, it's the concept that they themselves teach in the universities without the economic component. That's the biggest scam. The biggest scam is all of the publications that I just mentioned have editor-in-chiefs or senior editors or journalists or contributors who preach the exact same message completely devoid of the economic component, which does make it the most disingenuous thing in American and global political culture. They say that the neocolonial empire is the great scourge of the planet. I'm saying you're damn right. So why are you defending it? There's nothing more neocolonial than the United States dollar being the world's reserve currency.
Well, according to the Russians and the Chinese, that's the truth.
According to the leftists, according to the progressives, they just don't talk about the money because they're a bunch of fucking pompous, rich, Lake Calhoun fucking Finocchios. And they think they're so arrogant.
Well, they want to have the philosophy and the money too.
They want their cake and eat it too.
Yes, they do.
That's
Yes,
what it
they
is.
do.
It's obvious,
right?
And that's what I'm gonna walk in there and say to Klobuchar on the 27th. How can you guys, in good conscience, go before the American people and claim that colonialism and neocolonialism is the great scourge of our planet and our society, but at the same time defend it to the death, all the way to a nuclear war if need be? Because you like the money. Why? Here's the deal. Here's a scenario.
It's money for me and not for you.
If the world is so bad, and economic disparity is so bad, and we have to redistribute the unequal
For sustainability.
If we have to redistribute the wealth, why didn't it start with Amy Klobuchar? Why don't you start? Why don't you give away 90% of your money? George Soros did it. Say George Soros, he's a true believer. I'm not defending him. I'm just saying he understood. If I'm gonna,
I think Bill Gates is doing the same thing.
All of them are doing it. See, but they're at the top end. See, they know they're going. If we're gonna, and they know it's a fucking scam because they know if your net worth reaches a certain level, that it doesn't matter if you
The
have,
well does not run dry.
it doesn't matter if you have 40 billion or it's for example, when Warren Buffett committed, I don't know, it was what, 90% of his net worth. I mean, even that's a scam, the way they word it. I'm committing 90% or 80% of my net worth. Okay, it's a fiat currency. What does that mean? You know, you're going to give some money that none of us are going to be able to track because there'll be no forensic accounting. It's a private deal, philanthropic work anyway. It's hidden beneath audits and accounting and a bunch of other
Trusts.
fucking economic voodoo, trust and whatnot. So none of us are really going to know how much money you gave anyway. You're just saying it.
Foundations.
Yeah, okay. And then the stocks and things that you own, they tripled over the next 10 years anyway. It was like a complete a PR campaign for the uber wealthy in this country to say that they're giving back to the people while they tripled their own net worth. When Warren Buffett, I remember the Forbes 100, I remember the Forbes top 200 list when he said that, when he committed that money, and he was probably worth about 40 billion then, 30 billion. He's worth $129 billion now. This was just 10 years ago. I'm 33 years old. I remember looking at the list when I was 21. Back when you used to, if you came to the NBA, you started to think, hey, I could make a company, start up a tech company or something and become a billionaire, right? And you're looking at that list going, dang, these dudes are ballers. And here's Warren Buffett saying, no, 90% of I'm going to give it away. And so let's say he did give it away, which I don't think he ever did.
But he gave some away.
Let's say he did.
Some.
Let's say he gave away half. It wasn't 90%, but let's say he just gave away half of 40 billion.
He left himself enough of a germ seed to be 4 times wealthier now than he was then. That's crazy, isn't it? A lot of this is just about manipulating people.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm running. That's the whole reason. I mean, it's just this. Look, I don't give a fuck what you do, in the privacy of your home, minus you doing something wrong to the kids. But, if you want to dress up, if you're a 6'5" man, with hair on his back and his shoulders, and you like a good spaghetti strap dress and fucking, fishnet stockings and high heels, and you like a little rouge and lipstick on the weekends, and it's you and 3 other guys, and you're, you like to get together and club each other to Yanni's greatest hits. Okay, you're an American. But do we all have to ride along on this bullshit narrative? For you to be able to fuck another guy, do we have to ride along on the bullshit narrative about the entire global economy too? I mean, can we just separate out?
Of course, because that's the linchpin of democracy.
Same with women.
It's the linchpin of
Same
democracy.
with women. Same with women.
Linchpin of democracy.
Same with women.
Democracy.
Do we have to go on this roller coaster with this bullshit propaganda?
Not if we vote.
Same with women. Hey, you want to have an abortion? Obviously, it's legal. Donald Trump is not going to do a national ban. It's going to be legal in some states. We're not going to be able to stop you. Same way, and for you hardline Christians, and I get making the classification of whether it's legal or illegal. Because if a child is born and you take your kid out back, you shoot your kid in the back of the head, you're going to jail. Maybe if they catch you, which they're probably going to catch you. So we don't want to, we want to culturally normalize that. But my point is, it's another issue. You want to, again, you want to have sex with whoever you want. You get, that's your right. That's your right. You want abortions to be legal in some states? Obviously, they're going to be. We're not going to go back from that now. Doesn't seem that way. But do we all have to ride on the bullshit roller coaster for the entire global economy?
And pay for it.
Triple. Pay triple for it. Pay. We got to pay, and then we pay the tax, and then we pay the interest. Then we pay the interest on the interest.
When you talk to the voters and you just look at them and say you're being scammed, you're paying for the whole deal. It doesn't really sink into people. They're just trying to pay off the college loans for Johnny. Right. They don't really realize how screwed and tattooed our leadership has, because the $35 trillion debt hasn't hit home yet, which has certainly brought up Tom Emmer.
Yeah.
And that debt ceiling raise.
Yeah.
Because that's the linchpin of the whole. The debt system.
Yeah, good old Tommy. He talks a good game, Emmer. and they're talking about him being the majority leader in the House.
You mean taking over for MAGA Mike Johnson?
He talks a good game, you know. Tom talks a good game. Good speaker. Gets up there and
Great salesman. Great.
He gets up there and he yells, you know, and gets the crowd revved up and professes his allegiance to Israel. And yeah, okay. But you're going to keep stealing from the American people. And that's what the Congress is doing. That's what the Senate is. That's what the American government is doing. It just so happens the Congress is in charge of it. They're there to oversee it. They're the ones who do the appropriations. They're the ones who do the budget. So every time somebody raises that debt ceiling and gives you a continued resolution or for some scapegoat.
When they passed that debt ceiling raise, we were never supposed to have any more continuing resolutions. That's how they sold it.
Right.
We were going to bring back budgetary discipline. We were going to pass the budget bills that were required. I think it's 12 bills. Well, then we just had a continuing resolution.
Tom Emmer, you know, and him and the other Congress members, you know, they were hesitant to declare that they would support me or that they would vote for me in November. And they were asked by the Star Tribune. And of course, you know, they don't have enough stones to just tell the Star Tribune to go fuck themselves like I did when we had the primary watch party. And the Star Tribune sends a photographer. And remember, I told the photographer, get the fuck out of here. And I was kind to him because I know he don't work for he works for the Star Trib, but he's probably an independent photographer. But, you know, I called, he got on the phone. He was like shocked, right? You could tell that there's this sort of air of superiority and arrogance that the media has in general, where they think they're the biggest deal. Like they think they're the most important thing in our society. And we've given them that. We've allowed them to behave that way. But he calls his producer or whoever he was working with at the Strip. And I just told him on the phone, yeah, no fucking communists. I don't like you communists, period. You communists, get the fuck out of here. All the other media, but the Star Trib, you people are devout communists. Get the fuck out of here. One of the editors went on X that night, like immediately, and she was like, I'm going to go find that tweet and repost it repost it today. But she was like, because, you know, Royce White told our photographer that no communists were allowed and kicked him out. And because of that, you know, if Royce is victorious tomorrow, his face will not be on the front page.
I remember that. Who cares?
Fuck you. But my point is, when they called these other 4 Congress members, Stauber, Fischbach, Emmer, and who's the other one? Finstad?
Right.
When they call them, you know, they all give some lukewarm answer instead of just telling the Star Tribune to fuck off. Why? I mean, I know why, but my point is, and I told the Star Tribune, they called me, and I gave a comment back because I comment on what I want to comment on, not what they say I need to comment on, but I comment on what I want to. And I thought it was important to say. Not one of them would stand on a stage with me and debate the issues. Not one of them. Not a single one of them. Not one of them. They know better. And they resent me for it. And they don't have to say it. But that, you know, part of that is natural too, right? Like if I'm playing with LeBron James, part of me resents LeBron James a little bit. There's a little bit of that competitive spirit. So I get that as fellow politicians in the arena of politics, I get that, you know, that sort of insecurity but
competition. Because
yeah.
Politics is.
But part of it is much deeper. Part of it's about the ideology.
Are you sure?
Are you sure? Oh, I'm positive. Oh, it's the ideology. None of that. You think Tom Emmer would ever in a million fucking years challenge the U.S. dollar hegemony?
No.
Not in a million years.
Because he's in on the U.S. dollar hegemony.
Yeah.
I mean, almost their entire society has been convinced that this is reality.
Mm-hmm.
What we don't understand is it's a constructed reality. We don't realize that it was constructed by the victors of World War II at the Bretton Woods.
That's right.
I mean, it's created.
Yeah, the assholes won.
It's fully. It's
back to my original point.
It's fully and we're living in a culture that's been created by elites for the benefit of elites. And if we're going to change this, it is going to require American citizens to end what do you call it? Cuckery.
Yes.
We have to have an end to American cuckery. We have to have the kind of courage. I've been saying this, and I realized this. This is so interesting to me. The people that founded this country were so brave.
Yeah.
They were so bold and so aware of how life worked that they opened the country with freedom of speech to foreign ideologies that would challenge the very republicanism that they fought and died for. They knew that if people didn't compete, they would get soft, that they would become weak, passive, and ruled. That self-governance, freedom, requires continuous challenge.
Yeah.
That is so badass.
Yeah.
I mean,
We like the competition.
but
We want a challenge to our
I'm
ideology.
thinking, hey, we're Americans. Now, look,
Yeah.
now, I don't care how cucked out people are, our stream of consciousness at one level or our genetics at another, the people that are in this country left other countries.
The Christian community is guilty of this.
Oh, for sure.
The Christian community is guilty of not seeing the brilliance in the formation of the country, in that we do want to let other ideologies into the country.
Get in the public square and prove
your
the gospel.
beliefs.
That's correct.
Yes.
There's even a Supreme Court decision that the
No,
best,
and not prove the literal nature of the gospel. Prove that your entire system of belief adds more value and well-being to the people than ours.
well-being. And that's
Right.
what I think it was Holmes that said, the Chief Justice said, that the importance of free speech is it allows the ideas to compete in the marketplace.
Right.
Let's see which idea delivers the most well.
Just like free market. That was the predicate for free markets.
Yes, that's
Right.
correct. And you know what? There's no more free markets.
That's right. It's funny how it all goes downhill
Another
so quick.
Fugazi.
Another Fugazi. Yeah. It's not a free
So
market.
the linchpin of pulling all these Fugazis down. Now, see, this is what I think is interesting about Trump.
Yeah.
He's not saying that because our greatest strength as the country is the world reserve currency, the dollar, that would mean it would be our greatest weakness simultaneously, because your strength is your weakness. But he doesn't want to go there. He's just saying when he gets in, he's taking down the global trading architecture, which is the same thing. It's kind of it's doing it without. I mean, you're willing to say the controversial. This clip will be out there. People are going to have to understand what it is you're saying.
What I'm saying is this. When people hand each other fake paper, and at the global scale, they mostly do it on a computer screen. If there's not an actual exchange of goods and services, then it's an Uber scam. But where there is an exchange of goods and services, the reserve currency does not necessarily need to mediate that exchange of goods and services. We talked about this the other day when we were sitting at lunch. And they said, if we still want to buy cobalt from the Congo, we don't need a reserve currency in order to do so. And if we bought, the cobalt from the Congo, and there were some Congolese warlords or village people that were interested in U.S. dollars, and or if we wanted to trade and exchange something that we have here, the reserve currency is the single greatest way to have everybody in
You get a piece of everybody's action.
on the system.
You get a piece of everybody's action.
And
And
yes,
you have control, therefore, of everybody's action.
well, you have the perception of control.
And then here going to come every PhD economist going to comment on this because they're PhDs after all.
Okay, well, you tell me what we did before the United States dollar was the world's reserve currency. It's only been since after World War II. There was still an economy. There was still an economy in the other parts
A
of the world.
gold-based economy.
Yes, but when we say gold-based economy, gold just functioned as the highest expression of a raw material that everybody agreed upon.
You could turn your dollars in and
it's not
redeem
the
it
only,
for gold.
It's not the only. It's not the only real good. It's not the only. It's not the only thing, the only product, the only good that could be the basis of the.
But what are these currency regimes and
the
banking?
economy.
What is the banking and the currency about? It's about bridging or mediating the exchange of goods and services at the international globalist level.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Right. Because inside of our economy,
Doesn't mean a
doesn't
thing.
matter.
Right.
Because in Mexico, they use the peso, and that thing bounces up and down like a bouncing ball. But to the Mexicans, it's not bouncing anywhere. It's very stable. It just bounces if you're exchanging pesos for something else.
Right.
Right?
Ponzi scheme.
Just crazy.
It's a tool. It's a military tool.
It is a military tool.
It's a military tool. It's
can,
obvious.
It's kind of like the Price is Right. You can choose door A or door B.
Yeah.
You can have.
And how do they decide?
You can have the dollar behind.
How do they decide
behind
on,
door B? You're going to
who
get the
decides on if
aircraft
it goes
carrier.
up or down?
We do.
Who?
We do. Our technocratic elites that manage our economy.
There you go.
That would be the Federal Reserve.
There you go.
Our Board of Governors.
That's right. And the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank and the Bank of London. These people get to decide
Interest rates.
where the dollar
Money
is.
supply.
Right. Exchange rates. Right?
Right. You can't beat the house on that one. I will tell you personally, from personal experience.
Okay.
No beating the house.
Okay.
Right.
World Casino.
You can't beat the house. The only way you can actually beat the house is to vote and elect people that don't want to play this game. And why our country is so corrupt is to get into the game, you got to have a lot of money. So they buy the politicians right when they're in the blocks.
Damn.
Right. So you're
How can you have free and fair elections that are openly and accepted
for sale?
determined by the person with the most money? You can't have free and fair elections if your elections are based on who has the most money. There's nothing free or fair about how can the liberals say simultaneously?
Or we're going to get into liberal illogic now?
How can the
let's
liberals
just do
say,
another Hebrews. We can just do
how
everything.
can the liberals say that the wealthy, the super wealthy, the elitists are the problem in our society, then also say that we have free and fair elections when the elections usually go to the highest bidder? Usually, not always, but sometimes. These things are incompatible. They're not even. There's no logical coherence to it.
That's kind of like putting signs in the ground, isn't it? He who haveth the most signs wins the election. Is that what that is?
Horrifying.
And political activity is pounding a sign in your ground. I mean, if you've got political signs out there, I'm not arguing with you for doing it. Good, right?
Good, yeah. No, if you got a sign, great. You got a Royce White sign, we love it. But you better not have it as a substitute or scapegoat to not be out in the streets, not be going door to door, not be talking to everybody you know, not be understanding what the actual issues are so that you can convey it and repeat it to the next person who you talk to, so your community can start to reflect or synthesize an understanding of what the real political issues are. If you think pounding a sign in your yard is substituting that, you're a fucking asshole. With the sign, with the Royce White sign. If you think the Royce White sign is a substitute for you actually understanding what's at stake, I mean at a philosophical level, and then reflecting that in your participation out in the street, you're a fucking asshole. And we got a lot of assholes in this movement. We got a lot of assholes voting for Trump. Serious. And that's the truth. That's the hard truth
And
people
those
don't want to
very
hear.
self-same people, if President Trump prevails, we won't see them anymore. Their energy will dissipate because they'll think the game's over.
And I'm not saying there aren't more assholes on the other side. There are. But what I'm saying is we don't just have a chance to win this election. We have a chance to save the country. And people got to get wrap their heads around that. This shit is just starting.
Right. If President Trump wins, let the games begin.
Let the games begin. Oh, it's the kickback, the blowback on this shit. The blowback on this shit is going to be intense.
But we got the street teams going. We're meeting out in the streets. I'm doing it. You're doing it. We go out. We stand there. More and more. My dream is 1,000 Minnesotans in a pool that we can get 500 Minnesotans anytime, any place, for any reason, if we ask for them to come out and make the presence of republicanism felt in the street. Because the streets have been ceded to the left since the 1920s.
Yeah.
I mean, does the left own the streets, in your opinion?
100%.
And is that now where politics is really prosecuted, is in the streets?
Well, I guess we're going to find out. We're going to find out here on November 5th.
Well, we're going to find out if we got some more hang time, so to speak.
It's been another episode of Please Call Me Crazy, brought to you by Free People Radio, empowered by our favorite sponsor, TireGet.com. That's TireGet.com. You have to buy tires from somebody. You might as well buy them from us. Help fund the movement, help support the movement. We believe in the freedom of movement, and that's exactly what the establishment wants to take from you now. We appreciate your viewership and listenership today and in the future. The great Professor Penn in studio with us again. His podcast premieres at 7:30 p.m. Central on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can also listen to him on the John Fredericks Radio Network.
Got a new show there,
Yeah,
the Professor Penn Radio Hour. And you can go get the John Fredericks Radio app and listen there. And I'm on X. And
yeah.
you and I are moving inland. We're advancing.
Hey, how long before I get a spot on the Patriot or one of these Sirius XM conservative channels? Time will tell. And we'll see how invested they are in the United States dollar reserve currency.
Oh, up to their eyeballs.
Up to their eyeballs is right. Tip of the spear here at Free People Radio.
Proud of it.
And proud of it. Damn proud of it. We appreciate your listenership and viewership today and in the future. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, on Real America's Voice for the Royce White Show before War Room. We got big news breaking. Steve Bannon qualifies for the First Step Act, but is being held anyway until his release date because, he's Steve Bannon. We would expect nothing less. We should expect more, but we don't. And that's indicative of the whole problem. Steve Bannon due to be released, I think, on October 29th. So we're about 10 days out anyway. The man himself is coming home. And a reckoning is on the way. So stay tuned to the podcast here, Free People Radio. Please call me crazy. We hope you like the new intro. We hope you enjoyed the show. Tune in tomorrow, Real America's Voice, 9 a.m. Eastern. Make sure that you stay tuned for War Room. And come out there, if you're in Minnesota, come out there and tailgate with us on Sunday afternoon.
No, 9 a.m.
Sunday morning to Sunday afternoon. In front of U.S. Bank Stadium. The Vikings are red hot. Everybody's excited. Hopefully not so excited. We miss how important this election is.
Go vote.
The fight continues. Don't die a jerk off. Godspeed.